Hey, aloha. Welcome to the Friday Marketing Jam Session. I am Tom Gaddis. Excited to be here. I am excited you are here. We've got a great Friday live show lined up for you today. We're going to be talking about probably one of the biggest fears and obstacles, if I can say that word, that people face as an agency owner. And that's actually doing the selling, right? And specifically on today's episode, we're going to talk about how you can close more deals, more high-ticket deals without lying, without begging, without strong-arming, or even feeling like a sleazy, plaid-suited salesperson. So we're going to be taking your questions. We're also going to do some shark shout-outs. I think, let me double-check. Yes, we have a member of the week this week. We're just going to hang out and have a good time. So grab a cool drink of your choice. And I'm going to cue up the intro, and I'll see you back here in one momento.
It's now time, the moment you've been waiting for. Get ready for the fastest 60 minutes of marketing strategies and tactics to build your remote empire from anywhere in the world. After 167 agonizing hours, they've finally returned. From the sun-soaked Sin City and the sandy shores of Maui, Hawaii, now back for a brand new Aloha Marketing Jam Session. It's your hosts, the Offline Sharks and Remote Millionaires, Tom Gaddis and Nick Ponte.
Oh, that crowd is fired up out there. Oh yeah, settle down. What a crowd. Excited you're here. I'm Tom Gaddis. I'm flying semi-solo today. Nick is still in Europe at the present moment, having a grand old time. He's going to be back mainland side here in a few days. So I brought on today two sales pros that I'm going to be bringing out in a little bit, and they're going to walk you through their strategies for having effective meetings, how to close the deals, how to do all that stuff without the usual hard arm, strong arm tactics. So you guys should be excited about that. Let me go to the comments and see who all is here. What's up, Patty? I see Michael Marquez. I see Enrique, Megalodon Dorn. What's up? Yeah, my Hawaii style hat here, right? How's it? I don't know who that is, but I see it's a Facebook user. Happy Friday to you as well. I see Richie Cronin in the house. Awesome. Frank the Tank. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Excited you're here. Again, today we're going to be talking about sales, which is probably arguably one of the bigger, roadblocks, stop you in your tracks, obstacles, a continuing, like it's always a learning process and getting good at something that we don't master right away. We actually have to be doing it, not just learning it to get better at it. So we're going to talk about some strategies around that, some things you can do with my guests that are going to come out in a minute. Before that, I thought we would start off with some shark shout outs. And before I get to the shark shout outs, I do want to give a big shout out to my youngest daughter, Sophia, who made the volleyball team. So this summer, she's actually going to be playing in games and competing. So she's super excited. I'm super excited. Now I get to be one of those dads in the stands that yells and screams and, gets aggravated at the other parents. So looking forward to that experience. So congratulations to her. And let me pull up my screen here and we'll get into some shark shout outs, some wins that you guys have had over the past week. I love doing these. Here we go. All right, we're going to start off with Jerry Wright. So Jerry picked up a new website deal, $2,400 US. He states that having been an RM member taught him how to build his team. So he now has someone competent to take over this project that two other designers have up on. So congratulations, Jerry. It's awesome to see our RM members having success and doing what we teach in there, right? Following the process, building out a team, handing off that fulfillment. So congratulations, Jerry. Excellent job. Mr. Tony Edward closed a law firm, $1,500 a month on Google Business Profile Management, plus setting up and maintaining their YouTube account as well. Solid win, Tony. Solid win. Way to go. Next up, we've got Joanne Smith. She sold a 1,000, that's Australian dollars gig to the person that does her SEO work. They sold 4 custom spokesperson videos and outsourced the video marketing work to Joanne. Wow. A little back and forth, some referrals going on there. Excellent work, Joanne. Excellent work. Michael Marquez. He connected with a restaurant in December offering to help with their marketing. He agreed to barter his service for gift cards to get a case study. A really great approach that we've taught in several different places in Offline Sharks, right? Build out your portfolio. If you need to do a little barter, maybe do it at a discount, but feature them as a case study. A great way to build up that credibility and authority. He worked on the Google Business Profile and Yelp Profile, some social postings and review requests. He signed a deal with them on the 31st for website, Google Business Profile, and Yelp updates, social media posting, plus emails, SMS marketing, and CRM. Ended up at a $19,950 deal for 6 months with a 12-month agreement. Excellent stuff, Michael. Excellent stuff. Man, that is a huge, huge win. Way to go. Joanne Westwood, a new RM member. She restarted her agency in February. She's been slowly picking up steam. Now she has 6 clients with residual income and recently hired a developer because she's had the process figured out now. Man, Joanne, you're going to crush it in RM. When you get the SOPs and implementing some of that stuff with the client flow you have and what you're doing, it's going to make your life a lot easier. So congratulations. Welcome to RM as well. Donna Norris signed up a new client for rep management and Google Business Profile optimization, $599 a month with a one-time setup fee of $599. Solid deal, Donna. Man, Donna has just been crushing it ever since I think the home services jackpot launch. Like, man, she took that strategy and ran with it and has just been crushing it since then. So congratulations, Donna. Awesome to see you up on the wins list. For those of you that are keeping track at home, that's a combined total of $25,698 for the week of May 27th through June 2nd. It's a grand total of $805,069 since the start of 2023. We are closing in on $1 million in closed business. So congratulations to everybody out there that was on the wins today, that have been on the wins all year. If you're not taking action, get out there, take some action, share those results in the group. You can see people just crushing it out there. So it's definitely doable. Just get out there and take some action. And one other thing, I know we had a win too that I just saw come through in Remote Millionaires. Let me share this one. This will probably be on the shout outs next week, but I saw it pop up just before the call today. So a couple. One was Yakin. So Yakin got a new client, a business broker in Canada. He was referred inside the President's Club by another client. They both own over 5 companies. After he showed them what he could bring, he turned from pay-per lead to their monthly services. And this is what he initially sold. Google ads set up in first month, $1,970 plus ad spend. So $3,500 a month. $450 recurring ads optimization maintenance investment. Create a landing page blueprint and first landing page for $980, and then 30 landing pages from blueprint at $380. So he says to be sold next week is an SEO package for on page, $3K plus a monthly off page SEO package at $3.5K per month. The guy said he owns 7 more businesses that needs leads too. So man, a huge, awesome win. Yakin also said, if his company was set up like Nick and I showed him in RM from the get-go, he would have brought this deal in right away. But as a partnership instead, because he still needs to automate and implement some of the RM strategies. But thanks for all the help on this deal. So congratulations, Yakin. That is an amazing deal. Way to go. Also, Michelle Harder, she said she signed her very first paying client ever. That is a huge win. Michelle is also an RM member. She just posted this literally 20 minutes before we went live on the show. She said excited is an understatement. She stepped way out of her comfort zone on Monday and signed up the second business she called. It said it took a few days to catch up with him, but he just called and said he was ready. So she sold a home services jackpot roofing site for $500. She said she didn't have a clue what to say on the call, but she also sold $50 per month to keep his Google Business Profile updated. She said it should be more, but she panicked. That's okay. A win is a win, Michelle. A win is a win. She says she has another meeting today at 3:30 with another potential after 6 cold calls. Thank you, everyone that kept pushing me. Much love to y'all. She said, everything is great. I'm getting less and less nervous every time I pick up the phone, which ties right into what we're going to be talking about with sales, because that is a key thing that Michelle just said there, right? She got out of her comfort zone. She started doing. She got a deal pretty quickly, but the more she does it, she's getting more comfortable and more comfortable. So congratulations, Michelle. That's really, really awesome. Also, before I bring our guests out, I wanted to take a second and just welcome our new RM members. So let me pull up this list here. As you know, right now we've opened the doors to Remote Millionaires. It's kind of our white glove program where we give you all the SOPs we use in our agency, training to go along with them. We help you build your team, get all the processes in place from prospecting to fulfillment to systems and operations, all that stuff. So we've had a few people come in. I want to give them a shout out. Joanne Westwood, who we mentioned in the shout outs, very new RM member. Welcome, Joanne. Isaiah Jones, welcome to RM. Teresa Kelsey, Rachel Marquez, Allison, I'm gonna screw up your last name, Allison. Dioglian, Allison Dioglian. I hope I said that right. Joe Emmett, welcome to Remote Millionaires. Greg Wallace, Hannah Groves, Anna Ashmore, David Tilley, Charlene Dubique, Donald Smith, and Fred Mondapot, all new RM members. A lot of those names, man, they have been in our community for a long time. I'm so excited to see you guys finally taking that step, coming into RM. Welcome. As you guys know, we have limited spaces available, and that's what, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 13 new RM members. So if you haven't watched the training on what we do in RM, or you haven't applied yet to see if it's a good fit, I recommend you do that. I'll put a link below this video to the training here in a few minutes, so you can go watch that and check it out. Don't do it now because we've got a great live show. I want you to focus on this, but I'll do it a little bit later in the stream. So welcome to all those new RM members. Excited to have you inside. And one more thing before we go, I want to do our member of the week. So every week we like to reward a member for being a good steward of our community, right? Sharing wins, helping people out. We send them the amazing Offline Shark swag box you see here. Our member this week, let me get this so you guys can see it. Oh, first, I always forget to do this. For the week this week is dun, 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 Mr. Jerry Wright. Got a new client this week that he previously would probably just pass on had he not been a member of RM in the past, and learned the importance of building a team with the skills required to take on this project. So congratulations, Jerry. You are our member of the week. The team will get in touch with you. We'll get your address. We'll get this swag box sent out to you. Congratulations. Awesome to see the progress you're making inside of RM, and way to go. Way to go. All right. Man, really great work, everybody. Good stuff out there. All right. I don't want to waste any more time. I want to bring out our 2 sales pros today, our guests on today's show. I got some questions lined up for them. If you have any questions about sales, handling a sales meeting, how to do it, what to say, any fears that you may be facing that are holding you back, pop those in the chat box so we can address them and we can talk about them. We can work through this, right? If there's something that you're a little tentative to do, chances are other people out there have been doing it and can give some good advice to it. So pop those in. All right. Welcome our guests, Mr. Nick Luisi and Mr. Jason Cannigan. What's up, gentlemen?
Hello. What's happening? Happy Friday. I need a hat and I need a beard to be in the cool kids table.
Well, I just have the goatee now, but
I got you. But I definitely need next one. I need a hat and a beard. Jason,
someday,
you look like $1 million real money.
Thanks.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, for those of you that don't know, so Nick is an integral part of our sales operations here at Offline Sharks, Remote Millionaires. Jason is as well. He's one of our strategy experts. He gets on a lot of calls with potential RM members, with RM members, sharing, his experience, all of his insights, and how to effectively do sales. Really good stuff this past week. I mean, those new members that are coming in, great stuff. Awesome work, by the way, guys, because I'm excited to see them grow. Like I said, a lot of people that I've seen in our community for a long time, and excited to see them come into that. So awesome. What's up? I see Taylor's in the house. Cool. Well, why don't we start with, I think a good place to start, because, I mentioned at the beginning of the call that sales is usually something that a lot of people are just, they either feel like they're a natural born salesman or they're not, right? So I would be curious to know from your guys' point of view, one is, do you consider yourself a natural salesperson? And if not, were there any specific things you did to kind of get over that? Either one of you. Let's go Jason first.
Sure. So I got out of college in 1997 and immediately went to work in the power generation industry, where I set up an international distributorship program for something called industrial gas turbine generator sets. So think of a jet engine strapped to the ground. It doesn't go anywhere, but it makes heat and electricity. And you got to be an engineer. But my boss there wanted me to be a salesperson. The problem was, he was a great talent scout, because it turned out, right, Nick, that he was right. But I found that I just wanted to be a factory manager because that's what I went to school for. And so I resisted for years. And I got to tell you guys, it took me 10 years in the field, going back and forth between operations management and sales jobs, before I realized what I was missing. And that was a consistent sales process. I had no consistent sales process. And this is what people need. Now, we'll get into this probably in further detail, but there are several different ways of selling, just like a martial art, right? There's Brazilian jiu-jitsu there, and I don't want you to think about attacking people, but there's kung fu, there's karate, right? They're all different, So I'll stop there, and I don't think I was a natural salesperson at all. I was a high C in the disc profile. I changed quite a bit when I moved from Canada to the U.S. But Nick, let's hear you.
I'm probably the opposite. So I knew I wanted to be in sales from I think when I was born, right? My favorite uncle was a sales guy. My family owned a produce business, right? The worst business in the world to be in, because as soon as you pull away from the docks, your product is going down in value. After college, I went to a management trainee program. So I got recruited in a management trainee program. I said I wanted to be in sales. They said, okay, great, but you got to do 5 years in other departments before you could do that. So I quit and took a job selling securities, stocks, annuities, bonds, just cold calling 100 people a day, 150 people a day. I didn't know any better. So I just followed their scripts and just carried that on through. So I knew I always wanted to be it. It's my passion. What I wasn't good at the beginning was being a sales manager, right? So I had to learn that skill. But selling, you could always be better at the craft. I'm still learning, right? I work on my craft every day. And like Tom said in the beginning, there's days I don't feel like doing stuff, but you have to, so you kind of force yourself to. But yeah, I don't know if I was born to be it, but I knew I wanted to be it, and I work on getting better and better every day.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And I bring that up because Nick and I think are good examples of this too, because, there is a path in sales regardless of your personality. Right? I mean, I know people that are very introverted in real life, and they are amazing salespeople, right? And one, because of what Jason talked about, they have a process that they follow, and they know, if I just follow this process and I check off these boxes, they have a good chance of succeeding. And I think when you add into that a genuine caring for the outcome that the person you're talking to is going to get, you have that's the explosive mixture, right? So it's not so much that that, as they would call it in Oklahoma, that you have the gift of gab and you're outgoing. I mean, a lot of times when I'm faced with salespeople like that, it turns me off, right? I want somebody who knows what they're selling inside and out, who gives me, good guidance and direction, and kind of walks me through the process and answers any questions and, kind of deals with those doubts and things. And so, Nick and I are kind of that way. Like I'm a much more outgoing person in public, and I'm a slap you on the back and let's have a good time. And I've never met a stranger in my life. Like I meet somebody, we're instantly friends. Nick is the opposite. He's more reserved. He's a lot more of an introvert in those situations. But I would say that Nick, I think, is a better salesperson than I am today because, I think even having that, I guess, whatever you call it, like thinking like, yeah, even if it's like, I want to be a salesman, sometimes that's hindered me because I thought, oh, well, I don't really need to invest in learning this because I'm all right at it, right? Like, why do I need to waste that time when I can be out there doing? But what I've learned over the years is like, it's super important for me to take the time to go back and look at the fundamentals and learn the fundamentals and practice the fundamentals. And, I've watched Nick do that over the years and just get better and better and better and better and better and better. And, so I think regardless of what your personality type is, there is a process and a way for you to be effective at selling. One of the things I wanted to ask you guys too, to kind of go over, and I know somebody said the connection's kind of choppy a little bit. If it is, this will be in the Facebook group right after. You can watch it there. But let's talk about, getting on these calls with people together. Because I was mentioning this before we came on here live. Like, we get emails from people all the time that are like, I just want a process where I never have to talk to somebody. Right. And I hate to break it to you out there, but if you're selling something, especially selling something high ticket, it is very rare that you are not going to have to talk to someone one-on-one in some form or another. It may not be in person. It may be on the phone or via Zoom call, but like that connection, that personal connection, it really is an integral part of making them feel comfortable, answering any questions, and moving those deals forward so that you can close them. So I know a lot of people struggle with that part. So maybe Nick, you could start, and we could just talk about how do you prepare for those calls, and maybe some tips that you could give people to get them in, a little more comfortable with actually just getting on that call and talking to somebody.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think everybody struggles with that, right? They just don't want, they have an internal fear. So you just have to, a lot of it is mindset, right? So it all first starts up here and you kind of work your way through it. One is, you mentioned it, knowing as much as you possibly can about the products or services that you're selling to make sure that you're going to add value to the other person, right? Because we always go to these calls saying, how can I add value? Even if I'm just going to give you some tips, I'm here to add value. So that's the first. The right is the mindset that I want to add value to this other person's life. Two is, I love ABC. Now people stop and say it's always be closing. I'm opposite. I'm always be curious. I want to know more and more and more about the other person. Why? If they're a business owner, why did they get into business? What motivated them? What's their fears? All that stuff. So I think it's the genuine desire to really understand that person. They add value. And then at the end of the day, if I think that my products and services are really going to help them achieve their outcome that they want, then it's my duty to provide those to them, my duty to offer it to them, my duty to answer their questions so that they know that they're making the right choice. But it really becomes, we're partners, right? We're on the same side of the table. We're not fighting each other. And that's always been my philosophy. It's, how can we help? And how do we add value to each other?
Yeah, I think that's great stuff. And a point you mentioned about knowing what you're selling, that's one of the reasons why in a lot of the trainings that we do in Offline Sharks, and especially in Remote Millionaires, when we talk about the 3 pillars of a successful agency, one of the things that sometimes kind of surprises people is that we start with fulfillment, right? Like we start with, how do we build out that Rolodex of people that can deliver these services? And that goes back to your point about not only knowing what it is you're selling, but having that confidence in your ability to deliver. So a lot of really magic and good things happen when you go through that process of building out a Rolodex and having those fulfillment people in your pocket. Number one, you learn a ton about what it is you're selling. Like I've always said, if you know nothing about a service, just going through the process of posting a job and finding someone and vetting them and having that interaction with them will bring you very quickly up to speed, because you'll learn the lingo, you'll know what's in the packages that they have a lot of that figured out, right? Like we don't have to reinvent the wheel. If we're looking for somebody to do a social media like management for us, like they typically will have these packages that they put together for other clients and other people. And so we can look at those packages and ask them questions about it. And those are the packages we're going to be selling. So we just have to understand what's in those packages. And then we are able to talk to effectively to potential clients about them. Plus, in that process, we ask for samples of their work and we vet them like we're looking for quality. So we can, results they've gotten other clients. So those are often things that even if I've never had a social media client, I can use those examples because I know I'm going to use this person for my fulfillment. So I can actually use their work history, their examples as my examples because I know I'm going to use them, right? And then the third part is it really takes the stress off of like knowing how to price your services. Because once you know, like, look, these are the packages I'm going to offer. This is what's in them. This is how much it's going to cost me. Like I can now figure out effective pricing for profitability on my end. So it checks a lot of the boxes that people are usually sitting there going, well, I just don't know what to do. Like, what do I charge? And what do I say? Like, well, just going through that process fills in a lot of those holes. And then again, you have that confidence of like, look, I know if somebody says, yes, I can deliver this thing because I know what this thing is. And I vetted the person that I'm doing there. So, while sales is its own thing and they're, like you said, Nick, developing the craft and learning the skills of sales is super important. That fulfillment part is also an integral piece of that, right? Once you have that part down, then you can start to apply the craft of selling to, to put together an offer and talk to people in a way that lets them see that this thing solves the problems they have, right? And your ABC strategy, I think, is so great about that. Always be curious, always ask them, well, what are they trying to do, right? I think one of the biggest mistakes people make when they go into selling is they spend a lot of time talking about themselves. And, here's the reality. It has nothing to do with you, right? Like nothing to do with you. Like it's all about them. And so the more that you can listen, really listen and take notes about what they're looking to do, what they're trying to achieve, the problems they've faced trying to fix this issue before, right? Like when somebody says, oh, well, I worked with somebody and it didn't work out. Like a lot of people just gloss over that. But like our strategy is like, well, wait, let's step back. Like, why didn't it work out? Like what was not good about that, right? Because we'll be able to take that information that they give us in those questions and then turn around and show how what we're going to do is different and how they won't face those same hurdles when it comes to us. So I think all that stuff ties together. That's great. Jason, what about you? How do you prepare and put yourself at ease for a call?
So I have a slightly different approach. I can roll out of bed at 2 a.m. and do a sales call. I mean, it really makes no difference to me. The process is just so ingrained from having done it over and over again. Every time you take on a new offer, sure, there's a path that you need to learn, some technical terms, things like that. But the basic process, I got about 10 years into selling. We were in the mid 2000s, and I realized one day I'm pretty well known as a decent salesperson, understand the features and benefits of my product, stuff like that. But I realized I had no idea why I won some offers and lost others, and that was a problem. And that was the day that I realized that I needed to get some sales training. And I knew I had read years and years before How to Master the Art of Selling, right? Which is a classic features and benefits Hopkins book, right? And I didn't like it. There was way too much memorization. And I remember going like in 1998 or something like, ew, this is what sales is? Like, I don't want this, right? And I found out by doing research at that point, because suddenly I was curious, that there was another approach called consultative selling. And I signed up for a local guy in my town in Vancouver where I lived, who taught Sandler selling. And that's a consultative based system. And I spent 4 years of my life and $13,000 in that time doing that. It was like a car payment every month. And I'll tell you, folks, if you get into Remote Millionaires, Lucy, the sales trainer, has been through the same training. And you know why I know? Because of the titles of her videos. And so, because I got my own sales training program, but guess what? Module 1 has pretty much the same stuff, right? So that, for a person who didn't feel like being the Herb Tarlac from WKRP in Cincinnati, gold chain wearing, chest hair kind of guy, right? It was a great fit because it enabled you to kind of go out and find out what problems were people having that you could solve. And so when I get on, I want to hear where the person is at. And they'll tell me a lot in those first 4 minutes. They'll share beliefs, ideas, right? Experiences and things like that. And I kind of map out some ground. And from there, we can go somewhere, right? I need to understand where they're at, and then I can take them somewhere else. So I'll stop there.
So, well, Jason, so is that a typical, like when you're getting on a sales call, that kind of like big picture framework for you, is it typically like, like, okay, well, in the beginning of the call, we're going to spend some time figuring out where they're at. And then you talk about where they want to go. And then the third part is kind of like, this is how what I have will help you get there. Is that a good
That's pretty good. Yeah, it moves around a little bit, right? We can spend more or less time on things depending on what kind of roadblocks I see or something. I like to think about it as shining a flashlight around in a cave. Oh, this is hilarious. I've got a 500 gigabit connection, 32 gigs of RAM, and a nice graphics card, and I'm just stuttering here, and I don't know why.
I can hear you fine, but the video is a little behind.
All right, well, nobody needs to see me, I guess, in perfect form, but it's weird. And I've killed all my other browsers and stuff like that. Anyway, what I recommend people do, and if you're in Remote Millionaires, you will see the same things in Lucy's videos, okay? You need to qualify. And this is filtering leads, right? People who come in from the wheat from the chaff, right? And I teach people to filter for 3 things. Do they have a problem that you can solve? If and that could be a discovery, right? That we find out that they have this problem, or they know it already. There's a thing called levels of buyer awareness that you can look at for that, okay? But they have to admit it at some point. If they don't admit that they have the problem you solve, why would you try and sell them something? It's just going to fall flat. Then, does the size of the problem warrant your involvement? So us trying to sell PPC lead gen services to some broke electrician, it's not going to work, right? It's going to be very difficult to get that person to commit to a multi-month testing phase where we warm this up, right? But to go to an electrical company that's doing very well, they're going to have money to put into lead generation, and they're going to know that they want it, right? They need more jobs. And then the last one is personality fit. Can I get along with this person? Are they going to fight with me, argue with me, get angry, make me prove everything every step of the way? And so we got to be watchful for that. But this is the kind of support that you get inside Remote Millionaires. If you get in, not only do you have the wonderful collection of videos on this kind of selling, but also you've got Lucy to talk to. And you can say, look, this weird thing happened on my sales call. I don't know what to do. And she'll train you on what to do about it. And I think that is just the best thing I've seen in like 13 years in the agency world.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, there are a couple of really, really good things you said there. Number one is you talked about the long-term learning of the process and getting more comfortable, and it's ingrained now because, selling, like any new skill that you try to learn, in the beginning, you're probably going to suck at it. Right. Yeah. And you just have to like power through the sucking and just get more comfortable with it. I think that's really great. The pre-qualifying too, another critical part of that. I know one thing that kind of like surprised me when I really started going deep into, well, how do we structure the selling process and how do we get better at it and stuff like that was the idea that you don't make an offer to everyone. Like I was under the impression when you got on a sales call, like you always made an offer, like you never didn't make an offer. But like the reality was the really great salespeople were doing exactly what Jason was talking about, which was first, like there's no point in even, there's no point in offering a $2,000 a month SEO package to somebody who doesn't have $2,000 a month, right? So job one is like, okay, do they need SEO? Like Jason said, do they have this problem? And then job two is like, well, can they afford this, right? Michael said, power through the sucking. Yep. But like, so that, and there's a lot of things that we do as agency owners to get to that point, right? Like a lot of, we have a discovery form that we ask people to fill out. We do the strategy sessions, like all of those pieces of the process have built into them the pre-qualifying, right? Like in our discovery form, one of our questions is, what's your budget for this project? And there's a series of ranges they can select. Another question is, how soon do you want to get started? Right? Those are pre-qualifying questions that you want to kind of know the answer to, right? Now, I found the thing with budget is like people don't like to tell you the budget because they think you're just going to charge them whatever their budget is, right? That's why we do ranges. But, asking them, you can also find out, kind of circumvent the direct question by asking like, well, what are you currently spending money on in your marketing? Right? Like knowing what they're spending now can let give you an idea of what type of a situation they're in, and I've always thought a really good strategy for, that we've used at our agency is like, well, what are you spending money on now? And then the next question, how's that working out for you? Right. And if the answer to that question is like, well, it's not going well, then it's like, well, what if we took that money you're already spending and we moved it over to this thing, which I think will get you better results? Like the reality is they're not like you haven't cost them any money, right? You're just shifting marketing dollars from maybe something that's not working out for them to something that will. And so there's a huge advantage in that, right? And from their side, it's like, oh yeah, well, I'm already spending that money. Like if I can get better results spending it here, why would I not do that, right? Nick, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's, one of the reasons why I love the agency world, right? Because we deal with what every business owner is thinking about 24/7 is how can I get more customers? How can I grow, right? And if they're savvy enough, they know that they need to make an investment, right? And that investment varies based on their revenue, their profit, where things are. But they know that they need to make the investment. So we just have to have a really good conversation with them about that. And it's okay. Where are you spending money? Where are you at, right? So in sales terms or sales training terms, do they have a budget, right? In bands, right? Budget authority need. And so that's what we're trying to figure out. Where are they spending money? How's that working out for them? I love that. When I had my agency, I always used, okay, so where are you spending? Help me understand. How's that working out for you? Are you happy with it? Great. We're not going to touch that. Are there other places where we could try to find a nickel here or a dollar here or $100 here just so we could piece together to try new things? All business owners that are worth their weight have what I call the slush fund of marketing. They have money that they could try on new customer acquisition strategies or business development strategies. So we just have to really get to that with them. But you both said something that I want to go back to because it's the most important thing besides power through the sucking is the most important thing. The second most important thing that we could talk about is learning how to disqualify. Because that's the number one thing that beats people down is making offers to people that just should never have gotten an offer. That's going to frustrate you and frustrate them. And that's what causes the burnout on the sales side. So learning really well how to disqualify and, provide them maybe with some freebies or provide them with somebody else or provide them with some, like a referral strategy. If they just have no money, great. Here's 2 things or 3 things you could do. I always had those in my back pocket when I had my agency, but you always want to be able to disqualify because nothing's going to waste your time and when I look now, if I put my sales management hat on, I want clean pipelines. I don't want fiction in pipelines of saying, oh yeah, this is going to come in. Maybe someday this will come in. This person's going to buy. I know it. Well, you've been talking about them for 3 quarters, right? So at a certain point, either they're selling you or you're selling them. So those are the important things. And that just helps with the psychological aspect of it. Because Jason and I are big on, the mental aspect of sales and really focusing on keeping your focus, and nothing can get in your head more than trying to power through and close somebody that should never be closed. And it's going to frustrate them. It's going to frustrate you. And so don't do that as a business owner, right? So get really, really good on qualifications. And, that's just asking simple questions.
Yeah, that's such a great point. I remember in one of the early trainings we put out, I did a module that was called All Prospects Are Suspects Until Proven Otherwise. And I was trying to get across that mindset shift, because for me, when I was first starting my agency, I really wanted to close everybody, right? So I was trying to do everything I could just to close the deal. And it wasn't until I shifted to thinking like, well, wait a minute, like maybe I don't even want to work with this person, right? Like you want to be professional. You don't want to be snobbish or, give any like negative vibes. Like you can do it in a good way, but like just knowing for yourself, like, okay, well, hey, that's great. You're interested. Now let's see if we're a good fit. I've always liked that kind of thought process, right? Because it's just as much you seeing if they're a good fit for you as they are for them. I won't lie. Very challenging to do when you need the money, right? Like very challenging to do.
Been there, done there, got the t-shirt, right? I tell the story. We started our agency in 2006. I had partners and I actually grew it and took some investors in. We were heavy in home improvement, home services. 2008, 2009, what happened? Home improvement, home services went belly up, right? Our biggest client went bankrupt with us holding receivables. That was tough to not, to go back to qualification, because I needed to sell everybody I was in front of. Anybody that would talk to me, I would try to sell them. So it is tough. And I've been there, right? But it just helps you. The other thing, and I know that you said something really important, Tom, and Jason's also pointed on this. And if you look on behind, I got a ton of bookshelves with a bunch of books. And there's like 2 shelves full of older sales books, right? From like the 1900s, 1920s. And those books teach qualification, right? So teach suspect. That actually came from Patterson, who was the start of, IBM sales trainer, right? So teach qualification, and salespeople were much better at it. I think that skill is getting lost, and it's so important that we teach it to people, really how to qualify, how to treat people as suspects until they become prospects. And some people never hear that terminology in new sales training, but you got to go back to the old stuff because they really were great on qualifications.
Yeah. I mean, I know that changed the way when I was talking and too, like I used to, I was a Jason, like I never was much for memorizing all the stuff. Like, but once you kind of understand what you're trying to do there, it takes away that fear of like, well, I don't know what to say, right? Because, you can always, the ABC, the always be curious does that as well, right? Somebody says something and you're not really sure what to say next. You can just say, well, tell me more about that, right? While you kind of get your bearings, like, well, let's dive a little deeper into that. What are the specifics of that, right? So, and again, as you do that and you get more comfortable with it and you start to learn like what are the red flag. This is the other thing too. I think that not a lot of people talk about when it comes to sales is that, okay, that's great. Like, yeah, let's do the sales. Let's close the deal. Now, once we start working with that client, like what's our experience after we close that deal? Did we handle the client's expectations correctly? Like if the client is starting to get frustrated or upset about something, then a lot of times we think like, well, I need to fix something in my process here, but that problem probably started in your initial conversations where you weren't setting the expectation clearly, or you thought they understood because they nodded along, but they didn't say anything and you went to the next thing, but they really didn't understand what you were talking about there. So I think it's important after you close the deals to look at the experience of working with the client to make sure, like, well, is there anything in here that we can address, right? Like if a problem comes up, like, yeah, we need to address it in our system here too, but we also might want to talk about like, well, how can we build something into our initial conversations that will maybe ferret that problem out, right? Like maybe there's a question I can ask them based off this experience that will let me know whether that's going to happen with this client or they really do understand, right? So I think that's important as well to, like, you know, once the client's in and we're taking care of them, to look at everything that happens and say like, oh, okay, yeah, that was a great client to work with. Okay, well, like what did we identify in the sales call that found that person? How can we make sure everybody else is on that same kind of wavelength? Yeah. So by the way, for those of you that are on this live show, you know, I welcome the new RM members. As you know, we've got the doors open for a small amount of time right now. We have limited spaces. If you guys are enjoying this type of training, if you want more of it, if you want more personalized deep diving into how you could improve the selling process and do that stuff, I would encourage you, one, to go watch the training that we did. That's going to be coming down in a couple days. I'm going to put the link at the bottom of the screen. So if you go to offlinesharks.com/6 months, you can watch the training we did on the 3 pillars where we talk about how we implement all this stuff in the agency, how it all fits together. There's nothing to buy there, right? The only thing you can do is at the end, if you're interested and you want to see if Remote Millionaires is a good fit, you can go fill out an application. If you've been in our community a long time, like Anna Ashmore or Joanne Westwood or other people in our group, and you're like, you know what, like I want to just take that step and get into RM and really build a business that I want, you can just go to offlinesharks.com/apply now and fill out an application, and somebody from our team will reach out to you and we can talk through the process, explain what it is, and see if it's a good fit or not a good fit for your current situation. One of the great things about those calls is almost everybody that gets on those calls walks away with some information that they can implement in their business, even if they, you know, for whatever reason, RM isn't a good fit or at the time or whatever. A lot of times you'll get a lot of good stuff from those calls. So I would encourage you to go to offlinesharks.com/apply now. If you haven't watched the 3 pillars training, go watch that. Offlinesharks.com, 6 months as well. Let me look and see what other questions we have here. Frank says incentive advice also applies for dating. I don't know, Frank. I'm married. You know, one of the things I did too, Nick, and I don't know if you and Jason do this, but I always too like imagine the typical chintzy, you know, pushy salesperson and then just try to like not be that. You know what I mean? Because there, you know, I have been in, you know, I don't know, like, you know, for me, you know, putting some thought into like, okay, well, how do I talk to people? Like for me, what I did was I would look at other business owners. Like whenever I were at events or social gatherings or at networking groups, I was always watching how the business owners carried themselves. What language did they use? How, like, you know, and then just trying to emulate that when I would go and talk to people, because, you know, I'm a business owner too, right? So that kind of approach has worked the best for me.
Words matter, you know, and how you position yourself speaks volumes. I think it's part of your brand. How you articulate what you are saying in front of people, you know, that is all critical, and that's all part of the process. And I think you practice and you get better, and you practice just like the football teams and the baseball teams and the basketball teams. You watch game film, i.e. you listen to your calls. If you have the ability to have your calls recorded, you get a partner, right, in our wonderful community, and part of the program. You get people that can listen to calls for you. You know, and Jason and I are always trying to help each other of just thinking things through of how can we be a better service, but how can we get better at the craft, right? The craft of selling, the craft of doing good discovery, the craft of having a really good process. And, you know, I think some goes back to what your first question, are people born that way? The people that think they are born that way try to do it on the fly, never practice, never work on their craft, never dissect a call that either went well or wrong or didn't go well and say, what happened when I said this, they said that. And to me, it's just it's just part of the process, right? I would never think that a professional sports person, baseball, basketball, male or female, they're in the weight room. They're watching their nutrition. They are watching game film. They're going out on the practice field. And then on Sunday night or Thursday night or whenever the game is when they're set to perform. Well, you have to do all that stuff leading up to that as a salesperson until you're in front of the customer when it's time to perform. And John, you're a performer, Tom, by nature, right? So you know this, that you would never go on stage and just start winging magic tricks in your past life, right? You would be practicing and thinking about what you're going to say, and that's what you need to do as a salesperson, right? It goes back to the craft. Learn it, get in a community, get into a training program that does well, and just take it from this. I mean, just if you look at this Facebook feed, there's some great questions that people put, plus just some things that they use. Somebody had a phenomenal discovery question. I'm going to steal that one, right? So just being part of a community that gives back, or having a partner, or being in a bigger community like Offline Sharks and Remote Millionaire, where we just want to get better, right? We want to service our customers and get better. So that is just important.
Yeah, I totally agree. I do want to, in this discussion, we're coming up on the top of the hour here, and I got some Cash App money to give away and all that stuff, but I do want to give everyone out there some actionable tips that you can take and start to apply. So there are a couple of things, and then I'll let you guys chime in on some stuff that you might suggest as well. Number one, if you haven't read it in a while, or if you've never read it, you can never go wrong going back and reading How to Win Friends and Influence People. Like, that will just give you a really good foundation of how to come across in a way that resonates with people, regardless of what your personality type is. Just some general good stuff to do, right? Number two, and Donna touched on this in the comment that she put in the feed, which was she stopped going after less people who don't advertise and more people who do. That's a great basic pre-qualifying thing, right? If somebody's not spending money on advertising, now you have to go through this whole process of selling them on why they should advertise, right? If somebody calls up and says, oh, I only work on referrals, and that I think that's the best thing. Like, I don't try to convince them. I just say, okay, thanks very much. Do you have anybody that you think might need my help? And move on to the next, right? But when you start with somebody who's already spending money on advertising, you don't have to go through that part, right? They see the value in it. Obviously, they're trying it. Back to something Nick mentioned earlier and Jason did about companies that are more successful and are bigger. Like, when you start getting into the realm of dealing with really big companies, right? They have marketing budgets. I know in the agency, a lot of times in the agency space, a lot of people always talk about how doing things at low prices. But when you start to get into the bigger realm of clients, like, they're not shopping on the lowest price, right? They're shopping on the best quality of service that will fit in their marketing budget. Because this was another real eye-opener for me. If you work at a big company and you're in charge of the marketing budget, and at the end of the year, you go to them and you say, hey, I know you gave me $20,000, but I was able to only spend $10,000 of it. They would look at you like you're crazy. They would be like, wait a minute, what do you mean? You didn't spend the whole marketing budget? Like, that person would probably get a scolding, because the budget is there to be spent, right? Now, that doesn't mean they're just looking to pay the most money, but they're looking for the most value for the dollars they've allotted. So, that's a different type of mindset from what I have personally, where I'm, evaluating price and things like that. Businesses, big ones, tend to think of it in a different way. So that's something good to consider. So look for people that are advertising. That's a very good first step. The second thing I would suggest is what Nick mentioned, and that is, record yourself delivering a pitch. Listen to it. See how you sound. Record yourself on video. Get somebody to role play with you. Like, actually do some prep and some work on those types of things. I think those are good steps that you can take that will just help you get a little more comfortable, right? Jason, any suggestions that you would have for somebody that's looking to just get going?
Yeah, I want to hit this point first. Remote Millionaires is the best support for somebody who's committed to an agency business that I've seen in 13 years in the field. And I've run 3 myself and operated a 4th that did 800,000 a year in the commercial roofing space. Okay, so I've seen a lot. And so, yeah, what you were talking about there, I call the danger of the 2 sales. And if you guys are in the public Facebook group, search for videos that I posted because I talk about it. The first sale is this from the perspective of the buyer a good idea at all in general? Right. The second sale is your solution specifically the right one for me? And I see a lot of people rushing past that first sale trying to make the second. And it's like a trap, right? If they don't have this idea that, hey, I need this thing in general in the first place, it's very difficult to get them to buy your solution. So that's why looking for people who already demonstrate that they value advertising is a great start if you're in that area. Right, you know, what we talked about qualifying. When you get on a call or visiting somebody, take out a notepad and write down a third of the way down the page, you know, need, budget, personality fit. Okay. And then ask questions until you've uncovered these. Do you have the problem that I solve? Right? Ask questions until you know the answer. Is the problem large enough for you to warrant, you know, investing in my solution at this level, right? Whether it's a $300 website, a $3,000 website, or a $30,000 website. And then watching all the way along, are you doing something that a client from hell that I had did? In which case I got to call you on it. I'm not going to throw you out, but I'm going to ask, right? Hey, Tom, you just freaked out at that subcontractor who walked in here. Like, you're nice to me, but how long is it going to be before you do that to me? And if you do that to me, I'm gone and I'm keeping the deposit. Okay. So folks, if you qualify, which I feel is my superpower, I don't do a lot of hardcore closing. My close is like, what do you want to do next? Some of you have been there with me on this, right? But if I've qualified well and uncovered that you have the problem that we solve here, right? And that the business you're trying to build is large enough to warrant this investment, and you'll do the work and we can get along. Can you see how we're like 90% of the way to the sale here? Like, why would there be a problem at this point, right? So this is a big takeaway. Also, I'm not beyond coaching. Ask Nick. I've been doing this a long time. I still record my calls and give them to Nick Louisi and say, look, I was not myself on this call. Something happened, and like, help me figure it out, you know? So I'm, you know, despite the experience and having been a sales trainer myself for a zillion years, I still need feedback. So it's true for everybody. And I can't think of a better environment to do this in than Remote Millionaires, I got to say.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks. I appreciate that, Jason. Nick, any final tip suggestions?
You know, I think let's go back to where we started and the mindset, and realize that first call, right? There might be people that are just nervous of picking up the phone. And, you know, I was in the weight room this morning, but you know, there's guys that phone, they can never pick it up because it's just too heavy. So you have to fight through that. And you have to you do it once, you do it twice, you do it 3 times. That 4th time is going to be easier. That 30th time is going to be easier. So you just have to kind of get through that. The other thing you have to realize is that people are genuinely nice, right? There's going to be that errant person that you get, and it's probably going to be your first call and you're going to call BS on what I just said. But that the people generally are nice. They're business people. They've grown their business by being around other people, and just have an adult conversation with them. I provide a good service. You probably provide a good service. I'd like to learn more about it, and let's see if we could help, right? Because we're just helping other people, and they all need the services you provide as an agency owner. They all need a trusted partner that helps them with growth, with new business, new clients, new patients, new patrons, whatever it is they need the services that you provide. And so have that mindset of, I'm here to help. I'm curious. I have value and worth, so I'm not going to let you beat me up. Jason just threw something out there that I want everybody to have, is that hey, if you're a jerk to me, we have a no assholes policy. Excuse my French. I know probably PG-13 on Facebook, but I'm not going to take that, right? So you have some worth as a business owner, and everybody's in your spot that you're in, right? So don't compare Jason and I's chapter 13 or 12, I should say. Let's not use chapter 13, but our chapter 12 in life and sales to your chapter 1, right? Because you're just starting out. So we were there once, and we worked at it and got better and better and better and better, and keep learning from Nick and Tom, and the community, and just, be active in this community, Facebook community. And if Remote Millionaires make sense to you, we're here to role play and drill, and they got a phenomenal sales trainer in Lucy. She's one of the best I've ever heard. I learned from her every time I listen to her tapes. So, but don't worry. The mindset is there, and it will get easier and better once you do more of them. So that's my 2 cents.
Awesome. Well, awesome stuff, guys. Hey, I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy days to come on to share this information with our community. I hope you guys got some value out of it. We have one more thing we need to do. I know you got value out of it. If you didn't, you need to get a notepad, go back, rewatch it, and take notes, because they dropped some really great stuff on this call that you could implement right away that will make you better. So before we leave, though, I got one more thing to do.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money.
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar. Cheating, bling, bling, cut the chatter. You ain't talking money, then you're talking no matter.
All right. At the beginning of every show, when I do the shout outs, we make that post in the Facebook group. If you go there and leave a comment like, good job, great work, way to go, awesome stuff, anything, we pick a couple of people at random at the end of the stream and we send them some cash. So today's winners are Darla King Weaver and Taylor Stillman. Congratulations to both of you. Somebody from our team will reach out to get your Cash App tag or your PayPal, and we'll get some cash sent over to you. So thanks again for hanging out with us. Nick, Jason, thank you again for being here. Really, really appreciate it. Again, if you haven't watched the training we did on the 3 pillars last week, make sure you check that out. offlinesharks.com/6 months. If you feel like you're ready to look into Remote Millionaires and see if it's a good fit, you can just go to offlinesharks.com/apply. Until then, I will see you here next Friday. Same shark time, same shark channel. Stay safe over the weekend. Practice Aloha. See you next week, everybody.
You've been watching the Aloha Marketing Jam Session, your weekly marketing live show, always bringing you the latest strategies and tactics to build your remote empire from anywhere in the world. Don't forget to like, comment, and share this stream. You can stay up to date throughout the week with the Remote Millionaires podcast at remotemillionaires.com/podcast and Nick's YouTube videos at nickponte.com/YouTube. We'll be back here next Friday for another live show. Until then, aloha.